Now I will warn you, it's been on hiatus for over a decade now, so only get invested if you're okay with never having closure. Hi there, my name is Tessa, and I love manga, which you probably didn't know considering I don't actually spend that much time talking about it in online spaces, which is kind of crazy considering how many hours, no, years, I've put into it. I've read so much manga at this point that I kind of consider myself a connoisseur, and I'm especially well versed in manga with awesome clothing, because it's just a nice little Venn diagram of all of my interests. And I felt like it was time to share my knowledge with the world, or however many of you decided to click on this video. Now, most of these recommendations are shoujo manga, but there's some other genres sprinkled into there. And I want to make it clear that I am kind of using manga as a catch-all term because not all of these originate from Japan. Because this is going to be a pretty substantial list, I can't go into extensive detail about every single manga, so please do your own research if you're concerned about any sensitive topics or anything like that. Also, I'm going to be focusing on manga that aren't super duper mainstream, so that means no Nana, no Sailor Moon, no Princess Jellyfish, no Smile Down the Runway. Also, please cut me some slack on pronunciations. I'm gonna do my best, but in general, I don't watch a lot of anime, so I'm just going off of vibes, honestly. The first manga on this list is Skip Beat, which follows 16-year-old Kyoko Mogami who swears revenge on her childhood friend, Shotaro, after discovering that he's only been keeping her around to clean up after him. Sho is an up-and-coming pop idol, and knowing that she has no chance of getting near him as a normal person, Kyoko decides to enter show business, where she meets Ren Tsuruga, the most popular actor in Japan. I have literally been reading this since I was in elementary school, and the main couple still haven't gotten together yet, and if that isn't the definition of a slow burn, I don't know what is. Most of the outfits are kind of what you would expect from a shoujo manga from the 2000s, but every so often Kyoko gets a job that requires her to play a really unique character, which results in some really fun looks. I'm a really big fan of the heel sibling arc myself, because they're just so hardcore and gothic compared to what she usually wears. Because Kyoko is working in the entertainment industry, she bumps into a lot of men who are pretty theatrical, which means there are some pretty fun male style moments, which can be kind of rare in the manga space. So aside from an anime adaptation, there was a live action drama that got made in Taiwan, and it looks interesting. Next is The One, which follows Kane Lele, whose parents were Taiwan's top models, but died in a plane crash when she was just a baby, leaving her an orphan. She understandably hates the industry as a result, and resists her aunt's attempts to have her become a model. But she eventually changes her mind after seeing a photo of Angus Lanson, who is this universe's top male model. Derek Zoolander has nothing on him.
So why male models?
The series follows her rise to stardom, interactions with other models, and romance with Angus's twin brother, Eros. What's really cool about this manga is that it really shows the passage of time, with Lele's style changing as she matures and is influenced by others. You can even tell the difference between how she dresses when she's still living in Taiwan, versus when she's working in Japan, versus when she moves to New York. There's also a lot of fun references to brands like Vivienne Westwood, Chanel, and Dior. Next is Aozora Pop. Similar to The One, Kazuki Orika's mother was a famous model before her death, and Orika wants to grow up just like her, much to her father's disappointment. One day she enters a modeling competition where she experiences the highs and lows of the industry. I'll be honest, the story is very generic, but sometimes that's what I'm in the mood for. Next is Girl Crush, which is one of the newer manga on this list. The story follows popular high schooler Tenka Momose after she moves to South Korea to become a K-pop trainee. It definitely features more contemporary fashions like crop tops and high-rise skinny jeans, which maybe isn't quite as fun as shoujo style from the early 2000s, but overall, it does really remind me of what actual K-pop stars wear. And I will say, if you like manga that's just centered around the entertainment industry and friendship and that sort of drama, this is a great option. Next is Goong. Set in an alternate universe where Korea is still a monarchy, Chae Kyung-shin is an ordinary high school girl who's told that she has to marry the crown prince. Although the two initially clash, they wind up falling in love, but every time things are going well, someone gets in their way. Because of the setting, there is a lot of variation in clothing styles, from more casual streetwear to Western formal wear to Korean traditional clothing. And because the main character is so rebellious and outspoken, they have a lot of fun with her looks, which winds up looking really unique and edgy. This did wind up getting made into a K-drama in 2006, which was really popular, and it later got remade in Thailand in 2017. I haven't seen either of these live actions, but I will be honest with you, I don't think that they quite capture the magic of the clothing. Next is Dear My Girls, a very loose adaptation of Little Women. The four March sisters all attend the same school, but Beth is the black sheep of the family, lacking her sister's beauty, charm, and talents. The outfits take inspiration from the story's Victorian setting, but there are definitely some creative liberties. And while the outfits aren't necessarily what we would wear to the grocery store today, they are very pretty. Next is Ludwig Revolution. If you love fairy tales and fashion, this checks both boxes. The series follows Ludwig, a playboy prince who roams from kingdom to kingdom searching for potential brides. It touches on various stories like Snow White, Rapunzel, and the Salt Princess, usually in some unexpected ways, and it has a great balance of humor and horror. Because it's supposed to be a parody of the fairy tale genre, the outfits take inspiration from a variety of time periods and aesthetics, including Victorian, Visual Kei, and Lolita. I know that I said that I don't really watch anime, but I would kill for this. Next is Faeries Landing, which is inspired by the Korean folktale, The Heavenly Maiden and the Woodcutter. One day, high schooler Ryong Jae-gal saves a deer spirit who brings him to an enchanted spring where a group of fairies are bathing as thanks. The two spy on them, and Ryong accidentally tears one of their dresses, preventing her from returning home. But Fanta is more than happy to stay on Earth. Another fairy curses Ryang with 108 doomed relationships, and Fanta helps him by purifying these evil affinities, although she's really using it as an excuse to find her missing human father. As a bit of a tomboy, Fanta's outfits are a little more casual and sporty, which creates a cool contrast to the other female characters who definitely dress a little more sexy and cutesy. And even if you don't really care for the fashion that I'm showing examples of, the story itself is really interesting. Next is Oh My Goddess. When I was a kid, I used to borrow this all the time from my local library, and because of that, I kind of have a soft spot for it, since it essentially started my love of manga. The story follows university student Keiichi Morisato, who accidentally dials the wrong number, reaching Belldandy at the goddess technical helpline. She asks him what his wish is, and he says for her to stay with him forever, and she promptly obliges, which is complicated by Belldandy's lack of knowledge about the human world, her numerous suitors who have it out for Keiichi, and her troublemaking sisters who move in with them. The series had a 25-year-long run, and I've actually only read it in its entirety a single time. But I personally prefer the chapters from the 80s and 90s because they were a little more slice of lifey, with the drama revolving around school assignments, first dates, and domestic living. Whereas if you read the chapters from the 2000s onward, they're very focused on the supernatural elements, with a bunch of giant boss fights and demons causing trouble. What I really loved about the early issues is how perfectly they capture 1980s Japanese fashion, with giant shoulder pads, maxi skirts, and fitted silhouettes. They also did a really great job of giving each sister a unique style philosophy, and while Belldandy is the main female character, I was always more of an Erd girl myself. Next is Gals. Okay, this is probably the most mainstream option on this list, but I couldn't help myself. As the name implies, the series follows Ran Kotabuku, a gyaru who spends her time in Shibuya. Although she comes from a family of police officers, Ran is determined to be a girl forever, although justice and crime fighting seems to run through her veins. She usually spends her time with fellow gyarus Miu and Aya, whose problems she often helps resolve. There's also a more recent sequel manga, which follows the girls in their 20s, but I haven't been able to track it down. Inspired by a real Japanese subculture, Gals checks all of the boxes for gyaru style, like platform shoes, mini skirts, animal prints, and bold colors. And this is one of the few on this list whose anime I actually did check out. Kechonpa. Extremely similar to Gals, Kechonpa also follows a gyaru who takes the law into her own hands in order to impress her childhood crush, who's a police detective. But because he hates gyarus, she dresses in a more subdued style whenever she sees him. Released about a decade after Gals, you can really see how gyaru style changed over the years. And I think the darker direction of her wardrobe was a really great fit for the series' more serious crimes. Next is Dear Brother. From the same author as Rose of Versailles, Dear Brother follows 16-year-old Nanako Misonu after she's invited to join her school's incredibly exclusive sorority, which turns the rest of her classmates against her. She becomes embroiled in the lives of 3 of the most popular girls in school and learns some of their biggest secrets. The series began in the 1970s, which is very obvious from the clothing, which is as elegant as it is trendy. And I have a particular fondness for all of the dresses, which I would totally wear today. Side note, if you like this art style, you should definitely check out Glass Mask, which is about a young girl who decides to become an actress. Now, I will warn you, it's been on hiatus for over a decade now, so only get invested if you're okay with never having closure. Next is Midnight Secretary. I would describe this as 50 Shades of Grey if it was allowed to be more of a blatant Twilight knockoff. Kaya Satazuka is the perfect secretary, and even after discovering that her boss is a vampire, she does her job to the best of her abilities. Of course, this becomes more complicated after the two enter a relationship, which is of course heavily frowned upon within the vampire community. I won't lie to you, this story is mostly about the sex, but on occasion there are some fun style moments. And Kaya in particular has some great secretary chic looks that epitomize the modern day office siren trend. Next is Mana. Schoolgirl Zion is always taken advantage of by others, but one day after being tricked by 2 cult members, she's possessed by a ghost, and she subsequently begins working as an exorcist. To tie into these supernatural elements, all of the main characters have a sort of gothic punk rock style, and it's probably the manga that is most similar to Nana aesthetically, although I personally think that Zion's outfits are even more hardcore. Next is Othello. Yaya is a shy girl with a passion for singing, but anytime she hits her head, her alter ego Nana takes over and runs around town dealing with bullies, perverts, and other people who are causing trouble. As time passes, Yaya becomes more confident to the point that Nana is no longer needed. Because of her interest in rock music, Yaya initially dresses in a sort of gothic Lolita style, but as time passes and she becomes more confident and more of a free spirit, she switches into more of a 2000s to 1970s thing. Next is Hot-Blooded Woman. If you read a lot of manga in the 2000s, then you definitely came across works by the authors Hwang Mi-ri and Han Yu-rang, who seemingly published dozens of stories every single year. But in actuality, they were just a pseudonym for a bunch of salaried artists who were tasked with churning out a bunch of generic stories at a quick pace. But I won't lie, I ate it up every single time. One of my favorites was Hot-Blooded Woman, which followed a rebellious girl after her soul becomes trapped in another person's body, complicating all of her relationships, or more importantly, making her lose all of her precious muscles. The characters spend a lot of time at school, but every so often they have a fun look. Next is Akuma to Love Song. After being expelled, Maria Kawaii transfers to a new school, but her sharp tongue soon makes everyone forget about her pretty face, and she becomes an outcast. A beautiful singer, Maria grabs the attention of 2 of her classmates who try to help her get along with others, not realizing that she'd rather be alone than have fake friends. Again, most of this series takes place at school, so the kids are usually in their uniforms, but when Maria does wear casual clothing, it's usually in a hyper-feminine Lolita style that's a fun contrast to her cold nature. So I will say, don't go into this one expecting a lot of style moments. That's just a little cherry on top of the overall sundae. Next is the Wallflower. After being called ugly by her first love, Tsunako Nakahara rejects all things beautiful, drawing concern from her aunt, who tells her 4 handsome tenants that if they can transform Tsunako into a perfect lady, she'll let them live there for free. Although she usually appears in her cutesy chibi form, every so often she dresses in a gothic style that reflects her more macabre interests. This series was pretty popular when it was first released, getting a live-action drama and an anime, which you would probably like if you also enjoyed Ouran High School Host Club. Next is Beauty Pop. Kiri Koshiba is a talented hairstylist who anonymously gives insecure girls makeovers to help them feel better about themselves. This puts her in direct competition with the Scissors Project, a team of boys who similarly provide makeovers, but only to girls who are already pretty. Kiri directly challenges their leader, and eventually they begin working together. I'll admit that the art style can take some getting used to, and that the makeover moments aren't as impressive as some of the other recommendations on this list, but I like that it focuses on multiple style aspects from the hair to the makeup, to the nails, to the clothes. Sometimes they even drop some skincare advice. Last is Himeke doll. Yanahara Ayumu is obsessed with fashion designer Arakawa Renji, to the point that she decides to enroll in the same school as him, despite having no interest in becoming a designer herself. From that point onward, it follows the same formula. They're lovey-dovey, then there's a misunderstanding, they fight, they design something, then they kiss and make up. It's honestly one of the weaker manga on this list story-wise, but the clothing is really unique. I'm sure there's probably a name for this exact style, but I personally think that it looks scene adjacent, what with the checkerboard print, skulls, lace, and leopard. I know I spent this whole video talking about fashion-focused manga, but feel free to drop any other recommendations down below, especially if they're food or history related, because A Bride Story is taking so long to update that it's driving me crazy. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Bye!